So the first thing to think about when you want to do a webtoon on Krita is basically the formatting. So I basically have an unconventional way to do webtoons, I think. I basically use A4 format, which is in the design templates in Krita. So it might not actually be the best resolution, but it's actually been pretty good for me. And then next comes sketching. So first of all, for sketching, so I actually use the default pencil 3 large for B, which is it's a default pencil in Krita, I believe. But you don't have to choose what I choose. Any pencil is really good. Anything to sketch is really good. Maybe not a diffuse one because it's diffuse, so not really good. But anything should work to make a sketch. It's really a question of preference. I prefer the pencil 4B for the texture, so I mean it's not really good right now because I'm drawing with a mouse, but with a tablet it should be a little bit better. So once you have done the sketches and all this, we'll make the panels. So for the panels, I actually first I renamed the layer for the sketcher to sketch, and I'm gonna do another layer for panels. I'm gonna rename it panel or panels. So for the panels, I'm actually going to use the Grid and Guides Docker, which was open right now. But to get to it, you need to go to Dockers, Grid and Guides, click on it. I believe it should be ticked off by default. It should be 20 pixels by default, but I prefer 30 pixels. So I'm gonna just type 30 pixels again, and you can click on Show Grid, snap to grid, and then use the rectangular selection tool. And with this, what you can do is basically select the area you want a panel to be in. So first off, we're gonna select the area. I'm gonna use 3 pixels on the side, 3 pixels up and down, basically. So 3 pixels here. And then don't worry about the sketch, we can scale it back later. So I'm gonna use a little bit more space than I can see right now. And then after that, for the other panels, we can do Shift and select basically the same way. 3 pixels on the side, 3 pixels up, should be good. I've actually done a little mistake here, but it's not that bad. Same thing here for the last panel, and it should be good. After you've done the selection, what you want to do is Shift Backspace, select the color you want, and it's basically gonna fill it in with the color you selected. So it's actually not what we want right now. So what I'm gonna do to fix this is, well, it's not fixed, but to continue this is shrink selection by 10 pixel, and then delete. Then you have it, you have the panels. So it's actually done. So to scale back the sketches, what you can do is use the freehand selection, and then deselect, select the content of the panel, and then use the shortcut Ctrl and T, and scale it back down using Shift and click. And you can do this with every panel to make it fit. And that's basically it for the panel. So as an extra, I'm gonna show you how to make like weird shaped panels. So for example, if I use the pencil, let's say you wanted a really dynamic panel with like weird shapes like this. What you could do is bring back the Docker for grids and guides, because we're gonna need it. And actually gonna use this word tool, which is actually a kind of a line tracer. So I'm gonna show grid and snap to grid, and we can make precisely the shape we want. So let's say we want like a weird kind of slanted panel. We could do this, and basically we have the selection, and we use the same workflow. We Shift Backspace, it's gonna fill it in, select, shrink selection, 10 pixels, and delete, and there we go, we have the weird panels. So I'm actually gonna show my technique to make halftones in Krita. So you could use the texture brush, but I'm actually not a big fan of it, so I can't actually see it right now for weird reasons, because I'm actually in the white color. So I'm not a big fan of this brush, so what I do is I create a new layer which I'm gonna call halftones. I then group it, and I can actually rename this group to halftones group. And then what I do is I click on the little triangle here, and I do fill layer and do screen tones. So you might be wondering right now, why would I want screen tones everywhere? So don't worry. What we need to do is actually put the alpha on here, and what it's basically going to let us do is use any type of brushes to make halftones. So if you want like some kind of diffuse brush, so like this for example, the airbrush, you're actually going to be able to use it to make halftones. You know, there's a gradient and all, and so it's basically my favorite method to use halftones in Krita. So next we have Colorize Mask. So basically, if you're not a halftone kind of person and you want colors, you can use the Colorize Mask, which is basically the best way to color in Krita really fast. So I'm actually gonna delete the halftones group, and so here we have the line art, and it's really simple. It's actually simpler than the halftones, I believe. So you want to select the line art, click on the same triangle as before, click on Colorize Mask, and then basically what you're gonna want to do is click twice on the pencil, and then you can start coloring the flats. So you want to use something that has hard edges, and for the sake of the example, I'm actually gonna use not colors that don't match, but really for the sake of speed. So I'm actually gonna do the characters really fast. And if you want to have the margins here still white, what I recommend you do is use a contrasting color and basically put the color here and fill it in. Okay, that should be good. And finally, just for the background real quick, yeah, it's really rough. It's the result will not be good on this one, but take your time and it should be good. And when you're finished, you're actually gonna press on the little I don't even know what to call this, but you click on it and then you wait. It's gonna compute. Okay, so when it's over, you can actually click back on the pencil and you'll have your flats. So obviously it's kind of bad right now, but it's actually still pretty impressive considering the amount of effort I've done. So when it's done, you actually want to convert this into a paint layer. So right click on it and then convert to paint layer. So when it's into a paint layer, you can now remove the margins, but actually you have one step to do before, and it's actually to split the colors. And to do that, you go into layer, split layer, just accept, and then it should be good. It's gonna be a little time to compute, and here we go. So we've actually have a duplicate, so we can delete the old one, put all the colors out of group, and then if you can see, we have actually each color on a separate layer, which is actually really good. So if we want to remove the margins, we just have to click on this and it's all good. So this is actually going to be some helpful tips I can give you on Krita. So right now I have actually a page from my Webtoon, and it's actually on a single layer, if you see. And if I want to split the black and the white, what I can do is actually, it's not the magic wand as you might expect from Photoshop, but it's actually this, the similar color selection tool. And then you can use it at the exact same way you would use it in Photoshop, which is basically to, I'm actually gonna select the right layer, select the black color, Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, and you basically have it. So I'm actually gonna do a white layer underneath to contrast this, and there we go. We actually have the black layer, so it's actually a bit rough, but you can probably adjust it in the tool option here. So fuzziness and stuff, you can play with it. And then later, for some shortcuts that are really useful, you can use the B button to go back to your brush anytime. So let's say I was selecting something, I can go back to B, and then I'm actually drawing. So it's pretty fun. Another cool shortcut is actually the button M, which allows you to mirror your images, which is very useful to see if you have mistakes in your drawing. Another really cool shortcut is actually if you were to rotate your canvas, which you can do with shift and middle mouse button, and then you can play with it, is actually the button 5, which resets the canvas, which is actually something I use very often. And it's really useful to have a reset button basically anytime. So if you want to do the lettering, it's actually really straightforward. You actually use the text tool. It's basically what I use, and you can use here you can write the text. So oh yeah, for example. One font I suggest you use is actually Comica, which is I'm pretty sure it's a free font, and it's basically a font used for a lot of comics, and it's very let's say it's a very typical font for comics, or you can make one yourself if you have the patience. So that's basically it for the lettering. So actually the last thing I would do before publishing is actually cropping your images to make them, well, basically to make them a Webtoon, because I use A4 format, which is actually not a format that is acceptable, I think, for Webtoon. So you actually want to go on this site, I'm gonna put it in the description, and you basically select the folders and select your images, and it's gonna do the work itself. You basically have nothing to do. It's gonna zip the files and make a cropped version of your comic. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. You can follow me on Twitter and follow my webtoon called Dream Legacy on Webtoon Canvas, and I hope you have a nice day.